a special purpose acquisition company. We call them that. This is a more formal title. We also call them blank check companies. We also call them SPACs. You'll hear about them quite a bit. Well, maybe not now. It's a matter of these things, they wax and they wane in the overall financial markets. The tool to do this has really been around for quite a while. It seems to have really surged in the last decade, and then it seems to go up and down in the marketplace. I wanted to cover this because you'll hear about it, and hopefully someday you'll be wealthy enough to actually afford to be a player in the SPAC game. Yes, you too can be a SPAC player. So that being said, it really provides an access to experienced management teams. It gives flexibility in structuring deals. There's potential for faster time to market. Keep in mind that when you do an IPO, an initial public offering, the chief executive officer, as well as all the chief officers of the entire company, they run around for 6 to almost 9, 10, 11, or even a full year trying to sell the company to different investors. It gobbles up an enormous amount of time of all the management team. That being said, a SPAC, as you'll see shortly, really precludes all that time, and you get a deal done in just a few short weeks, really, with a SPAC if the right deal comes along. So there's faster time to market. There's increased liquidity for the investors. They have to sit down there and wait. They can actually move quickly. And there's lower cost overall compared to traditional IPOs, savings and costs of different investment bankers and so on. So SPACs, it's a special type of publicly traded company created for the sole purpose of raising capital through an IPO with the intent of acquiring an existing private company. So they see a company over here. Yes, let's sneak up on it with a SPAC. It's kind of what they do. So a SPAC doesn't necessarily have to have a specific goal or own a specific company. They really try to focus the SPAC to an industry. Let's go after something really cool tech. Yeah. And they huddle together and they form a company and they sell the concept to a number of people, just like you would an IPO, except it's not for a specific company. So here, on the other hand, a CEO is looking over there thinking, I want to do an IPO to raise $200 million, but it's a pain to do that. I got to talk to investment bankers and everything else. So instead, there's a SPAC over there. A SPAC is in my industry. Whoa, maybe I can go talk to them and maybe I can get some money out of them. And let's see if that board is good. The only reason I want to make sure the board is good because I want to make certain that the board keeps me hired in my job. Yes. And so they want to give me a lot of money, be a good board that likes me and keep me on my job. Yeah, it's my kind of deal. So you have two minds thinking alike in regards to that. So SPAC, we call them blank check companies because of the fact that a SPAC, really, there is no specific business that you're supposed to buy. They're supposed to buy something maybe in the industry, but for the most part, the people that put it together, they say, yo, you got too much money. Yeah, let's go have a lunch together and we'll talk about pooling our money, maybe $100 million or so. I want to be part of that club someday. Feel free to sit down and join my SPAC too. Okay, anyway, so they raise funds from investors with the promise will be used to identify some type of existing business that's looking to merge, or maybe not looking to merge, but we'll see. So we call them a blank check company because they're writing the check for a company that they don't know that they're going to buy it. What a weird concept. Kind of, except for the fact that we all do buying. We go into the store, we have these convenience items. Hey, let's pick this up over here. It only costs $17.99. I can afford that, except for the fact that the budget over here is, let's come over here. There's a company. I got $17 million to toss in here. How about you? What do you got over there? Oh, I got another $20 million in my back pocket over here. It's a little bit different thing. It's maybe casual buying for them, but maybe not for you and me. Anyway, you can raise capital for mergers and acquisitions. It's a lot faster, and there's actually a lot less regulatory hurdles because of the fact that you have one company that's formed for this purpose over here, and they're going to buy another company. You don't have to sit down there and this company go out. It's easier to do because it's pre-existing. Here's how it works. First of all, you got a sponsor team. A lot of experienced investors and business leaders, movie stars, sports stars, I kid you not. Those are the ones that sometimes lead the charge to raise the money. Hey, I scored 75 points in one of my basketball games last year. And you know what? I am an expert on financial matters. Here, follow me in the SPAC. Yeah, it works that way. Okay, so the SPAC raises money through an IPO. They sell an IPO by selling to investors. Then each one has a common share and a fraction of a warrant to sit down for voting purposes. Then they take the IPO and they search for a target company to acquire and merge with. Yo, over here, there's one over there sitting in the bushes. Let's get that one. It works that way. So anyhow, once a target company identified the SPAC, negotiates a merger agreement. You know what? We'll keep you on board because we think you're doing a good job. They say that today. But what happens is that company, instead of having its own IPO, a SPAC can save them the effort of doing its own IPO, which is actually exhausting and actually drains a lot of resources of the company while they're doing it. And the SPAC, it's got these investors looking to make money. And if you're the CEO being courted by them or you're courting the SPAC, either way, it could be a mutually beneficial aspect. So you have a merger agreement. And if it's agreed upon by the SPAC shareholders, the merger is approved, the SPAC and the target company merge. The difference, though, is that the company that they merge with keeps its own name, and the SPAC loses its name. It actually dissolves the SPAC, and they become one company. So it's a matter of they physically merge, the SPAC disappears, but except for the fact that all the investors now own a big chunk of the company that they just merged with. So that's a SPAC. Here's a typical life cycle. You really want to, if you're going to do a SPAC, it takes about 24 months, right around there. And otherwise, you'd start returning the money back to the investors that put the money in. So the SPAC has a limited life expectancy of about 2 years overall, maybe a little bit longer. It just depends how long you keep the investors happy and singing all from the same hymn book. So a SPAC, you have that whole thing. Here's a flow chart if you want to go into details. But for the most part, instead of the IPO, the SPAC pursues its own IPO with an undefined specificity. Maybe they'll specify the industry they're looking for, but really, as soon as they merge, they have enough money, they go out hunting for a company to sit down there and take over in the process. It's so much faster for a company to go public than with the traditional IPO. A SPAC can provide a company with access to a larger pool of capital very quickly. Also help the companies reduce the costs and risks associated with a typical IPO, because keep in mind, on that IPO, they have to put together a prospectus, they have to sit there shop it with the SEC. It becomes really difficult. So a SPAC, it's a new investment vehicle, although it's been around a while, but very few people actually use it. They're also managed by a sponsor team. The investors are really relying on the team's expertise and experience, and they have this limited lifespan. So it's kind of a win-win thing if you're involved in the SPAC. Here's some successful ones, and some of them I didn't even realize that they went through the SPAC. Virgin Galactic is a big one over there. DraftKings, Lucid Group, the ones making the high-end electric vehicles, the Rivian Automotive, Airbnb, they've all been involved with SPACs, and at this point, they sure look awful successful from a financial perspective, so it seems to work at least with these 5 over here. In conclusion, a SPAC is a great way to go public, but it's a new and maybe a risky investment vehicle. If you're involved with one, you'll probably end up doing really well because you can't play the game unless you got a lot of money in the process. Investors should consider all the risk and benefits, but SPACs really from the CEO's perspective, from the company's perspective, if you're being courted by a SPAC, you need to pay attention. It comes with good things and maybe bad things too, because you may not like those people and they may fire you and put their own person in. They may forget to tell you about that in the process. So SPACs, just like anything else in the world of investment, it's got risk, it's got danger, it's got excitement, and it's got the potential to make lots of money for a lot of different people if all goes well. But that's kind of not necessarily usually the case with all deals. Anyway, so a SPAC, special purpose acquisition company, a blank check company. Between all 3 titles, it really is a very interesting phenomena in the market, one that you need to know about. And if life is good to you, maybe you could participate in one as well. Take care.